Welcome to the Learn Beach Volleyball Fast podcast, the podcast where we apply the science of mastering skills faster, stories of successful people, life hacking concepts, and other cool stuff to the sport of beach volleyball. If you're someone who is serious about getting better at the sport and wouldn't mind accelerating your learning curve and career with ideas that have been previously hard to find within the beach volleyball space, you'll probably like it in here. I'm Alex, the host of the podcast as well as the creator of the bigger Learn Beach Volleyball Fast project. Now, let's get started. What's up, Alex here. Hope you're doing fine wherever you happen to be in the world during these crazy times. Fall 2020. This is probably one that's going to go to the history books. Anyway, I hope that this podcast is going to give you a small little break in all of this craziness that's going on around us. I hope you listened to part 1 and part 2 of Johan and mine's conversation. So then you're going to understand this is just part 3. We continue talk about there's a couple more interesting things that we actually talk about. So yeah, let's get started. Next question. So I've learned that you played probably more than 1 hour of poker in your life.
Yes.
And I see myself a little bit as like I try to be a sports hacker, at least. Like I try to sort of understand how to do something better than something else. And a fundamental problem, I think, in beach volleyball is that it is a small sport, which means that there isn't too much research. There isn't too many people in general, in total, that have really thought about how to do the journey of becoming a beach volleyball player better. So sometimes I go and read books from other sports, like soccer or baseball or basketball, because there's been more resources put down. I think poker, there has been quite a lot of thinking into. And I know you have had poker coaches and all that good stuff that we should all be doing.
As soon as there's a lot of money involved, I mean, people will research, people will do the stuff, do the hours. Yeah,
exactly, because it's so clear what they will get out of it. So sometimes I really enjoy asking people what's kind of the best things they learned in something, and then try to map out if it's possible to transfer that knowledge somehow into beach volleyball. So I think that's kind of what I'm asking you.
Yeah. Well, just I've been playing poker professionally since 2003, so I have
16 years.
Yeah, it's been my main income for all those years. And I've put in so many hours studying the game. And I mean, it's just, you get 2 cards, 5 cards are put on the table and you get to bet money. I mean, it shouldn't be 16 years of studies if you look at it, but it's I guess the same as chess or Go or whatever.
There's a lot of layers to it, I'm guessing.
Yeah. But some of the big things, and I think this has probably destroyed me a little bit, because one of the things that you are constantly looking for small edges.
Okay.
And I think for a long time that sort of spilled over to my normal life, that I was constantly looking for ways to save time, save money, be more efficient, do this better. Because it's always going to be me against a couple of other players. And if I can get a small edge, then I will take it.
So it's a little bit like that. Will this make the bike faster?
Yeah, it's exactly the marginal gains theory. If you can make the screw 1% of a gram lighter,
exactly.
I'll do it. If I can have a better software helping program than the other guy, I want it. If I can play 7 tables instead of 6,
because I think that can I think that's a very good mentality sometimes, but I can see how it could overspill and actually kind of do damage.
Yeah, we used to
become stressful.
We used to joke that someone's a professional poker player if they go out of their apartment and run over and press the elevator button and then go back and lock their door while the elevator is coming up.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of thing that that's the kind of thing that happened all the time.
Yeah. I have definitely seen a little bit of that in myself throughout the years too.
Yeah.
Then there's something really interesting. One of the personal development programs I've done talks about being. Some people are Pennywise but dollar foolish.
Yeah.
Which basically means that when you are too focused on these small gains, you actually put down energy into it and your attention, which sometimes might make you miss bigger opportunities. Because if we're constantly trying to fix everything a little bit better, well, what if there's a completely different system? What if there's something completely different that we should actually be doing?
And that's a big thing. I think it's a big thing in poker, and I think it's a big thing in beach volleyball. How you have to sometimes take a step back. There was actually in poker a couple of years ago a new software came out, which basically enables you to solve how a computer can solve how you should play in a certain spot. You don't have to guess anymore and think, this is probably best. You can know for sure.
Okay,
this is the best way to play in this spot. So people dive deep into this and put in hundreds of hours. And then a couple of years after the program came out, the sort of consensus is, we can know how to play, but we can never play that way because only a computer can randomize their play style like that. So people put in a lot of time into trying to mimic the computer's way of playing. And in the end, the solution is we can't play that way. So we have to go back to a more simple way again.
Okay, interesting. So it was a lot
but sort of influenced by the computer solutions. So the program isn't a waste of time, but the people who spent hundreds or maybe thousands of hours studying the program didn't get as much out of it as they probably wanted.
The interesting thing is that the people that did spend that time, they were probably thinking that everybody who's studying the normal game are doing the small marginal games, and I'm going for the big fish here. But then it suddenly didn't work out. So that's an interesting twist on the whole.
And I mean, I think this is applicable for beach volleyball as well. I think the alcohol discussion is exactly that. I mean, you can go drill your handsets, your serve receives, and whatever. But if you go partying twice every week, spend all your money on drinks and beer, maybe you should take a step back and think of why you try to become the best Alex beach volleyball player with your one hand tied to your back. So, taking a step back and thinking about why you're doing stuff is very important, I think, both in poker and beach volleyball. There's a really good mental coach. His name is Elliot Rowe, an American guy, I think, who has specialized in poker mental training, written a couple of books. He coaches sports guys and CEOs and stuff as well. But I mean, the mental side of poker is also one of the big things that if I had known, I sort of was forced to learn this stuff. I was interested before, but for poker, I mean, you do lose big sums of money sometimes, and how to handle that and don't let that affect your play in future hands, future sessions.
General mood, probably.
Yeah. So taking a bad beating, getting stuff blocked, and moving on to the next one. Taking the blue pill instead of the red one from the midget.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's two ways I want to go down from here. First, I'll go down the first one. So I really agree with taking a step back and actually looking at what is ahead of us and what's the smartest way to go forward. It's sort of the heart of this project, like actually asking the little bit bigger questions sometimes. So when I did that in the beginning, I sort of mapped out that I think in rough terms, there's beach volleyball is technique, like the actual skills you do. It's mental, the mental skills you have. It's tactical and strategies, like how to actually be smart and play against a certain team. And there's also like how physical are you, like how athletic. And there's millions of other things too. But those are like the big three: tactics, technique, and mental.
Yeah.
And I feel like people in general, like the status quo is just to sort of skip the mental part and like work a little bit on tactics and a little bit on skills, and just like do that randomly, like haphazardly, like just whatever happens.
Yeah.
Which I don't believe is the smartest way to go about it. But do you have any thoughts? Like basically what I landed in was I learned some sports psychology that allowed me to learn skills faster.
Yeah.
And then I sort of think as strategies and tactics as like the topping. But like if you don't have the skills, the strategies don't matter that much. Like up to a certain level you can get by with kind of bad skills if you're really good strategically and have good mentality.
Maybe, yeah.
Depends on what level you look at, but it's how would you approach the sport if you started today? If you had 5 years to become good and you were at ground zero, what would you do?
If it always comes back to the one question: is that the only goal? Is it does this help me become a better beach volleyball player? Yeah, then I'll do it. Nothing else matters. It's one approach. If it's I want to try and become good at beach volleyball, but I also want to have a good time at the same time, it becomes a different approach, I think.
Okay.
But I would go all three at the same time. I think putting in the hours is really important. But I mean, one of the problems with new beach volleyball players, young beach volleyball players, is that they very rarely get the best coaches. Because the best coaches, for natural reasons, end up with the elite teams.
Yeah.
So what you have is new players who get coached by coaches who don't really have the technical skills to teach good technique, and then you end up with technique that gets automated, that will later be hard to change. But I mean, if it one of the biggest questions that I want people to ask during the training courses is, why do we do stuff? Why do you do this drill? Why do you stand there when we do this drill? Why don't you stand over there? What's the purpose of the drill? So I think I lost my train of thought again. What was the question?
Fuck, I don't know either. What was the question? It was
about
about the big
the big three: tactics, skills, and mental. I mean, if you really want to become the best player you can, and you have 5 years, I would do all three. I think putting in the hours is really important, but I think maybe if you put in 3 months in the beginning, making sure that the next 500 hours you would train the right technique. That would be time well spent. So maybe before you even touch the ball, you would make sure that you knew how it would look. One of my old partners grew up with his big brother watching old AVP footage. And he is one of the best technical players around. Even if you look internationally.
Who is that?
Morten Christiansson.
Okay.
He used to play on the Swedish tour.
Interesting. Is there a video of him?
I don't know. He played the veterans Swedish champs last year or the year before, I think.
Okay. And he just watched a bunch of AVP?
Yeah, he grew up watching AVP with his older brother. So I think if to really do it the right way, make sure you put some time in first to make sure you do the right things. But most of the time you need someone watching you to make sure that when you start that it's what it is.
Yeah.
You can video yourself.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
And I mean, maybe I would put tactics later.
Okay.
A little bit.
So actually, a little bit agree with me there.
Yeah. And then
because I feel like sometimes people over rely on tactics and just then they're like, oh, whatever, I can play with whatever technique.
Yeah.
Which to a certain point is always true. I think it's the quickest wins in terms of points you get out of tactics. So I almost think it's like I know you said slippery slope.
Yeah.
Because it gives you a lot of instant gratification.
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, this gives me so much, maybe I should do more of this. But I think it has sort of a maximum limit.
Yeah.
At one point.
I have another theory about the mental stuff, and that's when older experienced players play the young guns, and the young guns do well in the beginning and win the first set, and then end up losing a tight second and crashing 15-3 in the third. I don't think it's because of experience per se. I think it's because the young players have trained all the playing skills. They've trained hand setting, passing, serving, weightlifting, and whatever. They've done all that, but they haven't put in dedicated hours of mental training, which means that the older guys they probably haven't either. But they've been in the situation enough times that has been their mental training.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's my theory on it. I think the young players don't have to lose the tight important games to the more experienced players. I think it's just a lack of
experience.
Well, it could be a lack of experience, but it also could be seen as a lack of mental training. Have they trained mentally as much as they did with the specific beach volleyball techniques, they would
for sure.
Well there as well.
That might have happened to me last weekend.
Yeah, you played against one of my old partners, and he couldn't even jump, and he still lost. And he's 50.
Oh my god. We killed him in the first set. Did you see the first set?
No, I missed it. On purpose.
I don't even know if they got 10 points. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
That was a really interesting experience. I always tell myself I'm going to learn something new in the morning before I play a tournament.
Yeah.
That day was the first time I was actually really interested in winning a game, and the ref did something that was against me and wrong.
Yeah.
And I've it's funny, I coach people and I tell, so at times I've coached people, but I've been the ref coaching, and I've literally told them that I might sometimes ref wrong.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to handle what happens mentally to you when that happens.
Yeah.
But it's never hit me that strong that I was actually that interested in winning a game, and the ref didn't. Like, it was the first time I really blacked out of rage. Yeah. But it was crazy interesting to both have that happen to you, but also try to realize that, oh, this is the stuff I talk about when I coach people. Now I just need to calm down. Yeah. And I didn't have enough repetitions in that. That's one thing that I need more real game repetitions in.
Yeah.
And probably more, I think I can visualize it and get kind of reps from it that way too. Because I've done it before, but it's just never hit me that hard with that intensity. Yeah. Which was really interesting.
Yeah. Because I mean, one thing with the approach that you are taking is that you don't really train yourself in the wanting to win. You have a very scientific way of doing it, which I think is really good. But there's a risk in not putting yourself out there and not sort of saying, I really, really want to win this tournament.
Yeah.
And if I fail, that's going to sting.
Yeah.
I think you need to train that aspect as well.
I think so too. I think it's everything needs to be taken care of sooner or later.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because, I mean, I think it's okay that it stings when you lose.
Yeah.
As long as you say, okay, this sucks. I want to do everything I can to have this not happen again because I want to win the next one. But still, it should sting.
Yeah.
Maybe not for 2 weeks, but
no.
Half an hour. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Yep, it's I'm a weirdo. I still have 6 years to my goal.
Yeah, I
know. And I'm so far I'm still imagining that I will have time to take care of that and get more value out of the hours I spent taking care of that after I fixed something else before.
It was fun watching you play. I mean, we got to train together last week before my back crashed on me. And you're a better player than I thought.
That's interesting.
So, I mean, I hadn't seen you play before, so it was good.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's as I always say, like this whole project, this absolute whole thing is just a personal experiment in seeing can I pull this thing off.
Yeah, I mean, you're not far from being good enough to play on the Swedish beach tour, so
maybe not.
You're quite early in your long-term plan. Still.
Yeah, I'm still halfways.
Yeah,
and literally the plan was to get to that level where I could play on the Swedish tour. Yeah, my plan was to try to get there in 11 years.
Yeah,
and which I thought was a ridiculous goal because I literally didn't do ball sports as a kid.
Yeah.
But it's we'll see if I can pull this off. I'm seeing more and more positively on it.
Yeah, for sure.
The time. But I also know that I have my plans with my technique and whatnot that most people don't even know what my plans are.
Yeah.
But there's one thing about sports which is the sports versus life. Sometimes you can try concepts in sports on a smaller scale than in life and see that a concept works.
Yeah.
And then you start trusting it more. So then you can bet on that the concept will work again in a bigger time frame.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but it's kind of like, what if I plan something and then execute instead of just executing? And then you do that once with a shopping list and you see, oh shit, it works. I actually shop better when I have a shopping list.
Yeah.
Well, what if I plan this year?
Yeah.
And then you see that this year actually works better. Well, what if I plan this fucking 11 years?
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of the concept of learning how to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So, and that's also an interesting concept about reliability, of being reliable, that what you say you're going to do, what you want to do, you're going to do it. Which I think is a reason why showing up in time for practice is important. I think it goes back to the old do your bed, like the military. It's sort of a little bit the same. But if you can rely on... If I say I'm going to lose 5 pounds the next month, and I do it, that strengthens my feeling of if I set the plan and then do it, that's who I am. I always do what I say.
Yeah.
So I think if you sort of show up late for practice, if you blame other things, you sort of strengthen that identity. It goes back to the identity goal thing that I talked about as well.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And
it's a big lesson in that for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to act, if you want to become a gold medalist at the Olympics, and you decide I'm going to act like it, it's not going to be hard for you when someone asks you, do you want to go out for beers?
Mm-hmm.
No. If the image of an Olympic gold medalist for you is someone who doesn't drink beer, it's easy. Mm-hmm. No, I won the gold at the Olympics. I don't go out and drink beer.
Yeah.
I don't smoke. I train Saturday mornings. It's what I do.
Exactly. For sure.
I actually just a week or so ago put up a little piece of paper with the words "I eat healthy" on my fridge at home.
Has that worked?
Not very well so far. But it's made a small improvement.
Sometimes you just need to get started.
Yeah.
Over time you pick it up.
I was going for 100% improvement. No chips, no candy, no stupid stuff. But I probably gained 25%. Just by putting up a piece of paper on my fridge, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll put up 3 more and I'll...
Yeah. But I also do think that once your brain starts getting used to thinking that way, like you're a little bit less prone to eat candy now. And over
hope
time
so.
That will gain momentum. And
I've done too few of these experiments. I mean, you listen to Tim Ferriss a bit, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He does these stupid things. Goes to the grocery store and lies down on the floor just to be uncomfortable and stupid stuff like that. I think I do way too few of them.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Yeah.
I think
cold showers is one of those things.
It's the best.
I actually tried for a long time, and it's so stupid that I stopped.
You actually did it?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Every day for a month once, and then sporadically every now and then. I loved it.
Yeah,
it's perfect. And I mean, I think that's also a key concept. Most people know what they have to do. Be in time for practice, be focused during practice, warm up, take care of your injuries, eat well, sleep well. People know what they have to do, but they don't do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sure, we can talk about what's the best technique for hand setting, for example. And maybe we don't know for sure. But a lot of the big things, the big picture things, everybody knows.
Yeah.
It's just hard to do it.
Yeah. How long are we going here? I should probably... I kind of knew this was going to get long, but... let's see. Over 2 hours.
My wife just texted him, when you come...
Okay. So then that means I'm going to save this bunch of other questions for maybe later. But... something I want to ask, which is they ask at the Sandcast, I love that question, is there something that we haven't talked about that you really wish that we would have? Is there something that you feel we missed? Something that's you're like, I really want to... Or do you feel like you...
I don't know, Alex. My brain is kind of cooked now.
That's okay.
I mean, I often come back to this, that it sounds corny maybe, but ask the question why, what's the purpose? And I mean, it's a big difference if the goal is to become the best. There's a Swedish mental podcast that I really like, a couple 100 episodes, which is cool, and he talks about the discrepancy between what you want and the amount of work you put in to get that. So for example, if you say I want to weigh 80 kilos, but you weigh 90 and you don't work out and you eat unhealthy and you still always go around saying, I'm overweight, and you sort of, on a scale from 1 to 10, you say it's a 10, I want to weigh 80 kilos, but you only put in a 6 of work. Do you know?
Yeah.
So the discrepancy between how much you think or feel or actually want something and the amount of work you put into it, I think the discrepancy there is a big thing for people in beach volleyball and in life. So I think that if you can take that step back and say, all right, right now it feels like I want to weigh 80 kilos at 10, but is it really that important to me? Am I willing to put in the amount of work? Do I want to become the Sweden's best beach volleyball player? Am I willing to put in that amount of work? It's a 10 on the 1 scale. Is it also a 10 on the, put in the work scale?
Yeah.
And I think a person is worth as much if they don't care about beach volleyball at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's never what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's no value in a way.
I think if I were to teach people something of the things I've learned over the years, is that if you think that it's a 10 on I want to become the best beach volleyball player in Sweden, but they only put in 4 or 5 of the work and constantly feel bad about it, I think they can do something better. They can either say, yeah, it's a 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it being a 5. Beach volleyball is fun, but I don't care if I become the best in Sweden. I want to be pretty good. I want to see how far I can go. I want to train twice a week. It's fine. I have a good life. I like beach volleyball. If they wanted a 10 and do the work that it requires to be a 10, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that discrepancy is often a big problem,
yeah.
And not only in beach volleyball.
So it's like a miscalibration between expectations and what you do to meet those expectations.
Yeah. I want to be rich. Do you do the work? Do you work 80 hours a week? Do you read all the books on how to get rich? Do you contact the rich people and see how they did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, whatever, you can apply the concept to anything basically. Yeah. And I think the biggest problem for people who are unhappy is that discrepancy. That really touched base with me. And
what do you mean?
I think when there's a difference between how much you think you want something, how much it feels like you want something, and the amount of work, I think that makes people unhappy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then you constantly feel like a failure. It goes back to your identity.
Mm-hmm.
I want this, but I can't get it.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person who doesn't do the work. I'm the person who can't reach my goals. So either do the work, reach the goals that way, or lower your goals. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. But stay calibrated in the expectations versus reality.
When we started this group a couple of years ago, I had really, really, really high expectations, probably higher than any of the players had.
The training group?
Yes, the training group. And I probably wasn't clear with myself or the players about how high my expectations were. So I think that was a problem in that sense.
Yeah, so then there was like a disconnect within the group in a way. Yeah, that makes sense.
What I was trying to come to, I lost my train of thought again. What I was trying to come to was that was what gave me purpose as a coach at that time. Mm-hmm. And for a while, nothing less gave me motivation to coach. But now I helped a couple of groups this spring, and they are people who are really good. Mm-hmm. Some of them play on the Swedish Beach Tour, but they train 2 or 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. They have full-time jobs. They're not elite in that way. Mm-hmm. So what I had to do was to sort of change the scope of it and say, all right, at those 2 or 3 practices, we can still go marginal gains.
Yeah.
We can still, within that confined time, we can go, what will this make the boat go faster, or will this make the bike go faster? Mm-hmm. So that was a way for me to sort of trick myself into being motivated to coach again.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah, so basically going to optimizing what you have rather than be pissed off over what you don't have, in a way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's optimization is the key. And we should always question everything. Also, the total amount of hours we put in.
Yeah. One of the new Swedish men's head coach. I interviewed him for my podcast last year, and he talked about quality per hour as a very important thing.
Yeah.
His players put in the hours. Now we really have to improve the quality per hour. Mm-hmm. And I really like that concept. It's right in line with how I think about things.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Me too. Okay, this is the last one. This is my favorite question as a coach. So sometimes if I coach a group and I have time over in the left, or there's people not running off to the next errand straight after, I actually love asking them, what could I have done better during the session as a coach?
Yep.
Because I tell them it's my favorite question, because that's literally where I get my biggest coaching insights.
Yeah.
That's the most direct feedback. Sometimes I have to tell people we're in Scandinavia. People don't like to be direct and sort of rude towards each other. Like sometimes I tell them, be as fucking rude as you want, because that's where I learn the most from.
Yeah.
People seem to appreciate that. So I guess we have just recorded a podcast episode. Is there something I should learn for the future? Is there something I should do better, except having a better mic setup that doesn't break off every now and then?
My first thought is that I've learned something that I can use for my podcast when I pick it up again, and that is that everything doesn't have to be perfectly planned. I'm not sure what people are going to think when they listen to this, but as sort of a perfectionist, struggling perfectionist, I think there's merit in just doing stuff and see where it's going.
Yeah.
So more maybe that my first thought is that I've learned something.
Okay, interesting. You learned from my sloppiness. You're like literally like, hey, you need to be on time to practice. And you're walking in there and I'm like, fucking shit, the microphone is not up yet.
No, but it always comes back to the question, what do you want? Mm-hmm. You want to put out good stuff for people who want to get better at beach volleyball and want to think about how they're doing it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you spend all your time working the small details in, for example, this podcast episode, maybe it doesn't come out. Maybe it's not 2.5 hours. Maybe you will only put out one episode. Maybe the next 5 people that you interview aren't going to be interviewed.
Yeah.
So it's better to do stuff and get it out. There are so many good podcasts and YouTube channels out with stuff like this. There's an American woman who basically coaches people who want to lose weight or stop drinking. She always talks about set your goal high, but be happy with B minus. I think it's B minus she's happy with. So for a perfectionist as me, who's always sort of going for an A and never getting things done, going for B minus is a really big challenge.
Yeah.
But B minus for her seemed to be the sweet spot where it's good enough.
Yeah.
But still gets done.
Yeah. It's and I've been a perfectionist myself too in many ways.
Yeah.
And I guess people told me like you just need the momentum, like you need to start creating and not because I see the flaws in my videos all over. Maybe even more than other people, or maybe I've created a filter where I see them anymore. I'm not completely sure, but I do retakes and sometimes I recreate the whole videos because I'm not happy with how they ended up. you should watch my first online business I've ever created. It's still up there, and it's still making me money.
Cool.
It's so fucking cringe-worthy. Like the introduction video for that whole thing is so bad.
Yeah.
You should watch it just as a mental practice.
I will.
But it works. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I guess I learned there that sometimes you just have to create stuff.
Yeah.
and believe that good enough is good enough.
Yeah.
But always strive to get better. I mean, this is all new to me as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully I learn with time. Yeah. But same with coaching. I had no idea what I was doing in the beginning.
Yeah.
Or I had some ideas that I believed in strongly, and then the rest I figured out as I went on.
Yeah. There's also, I mean, it might have sounded like I talk sort of that I don't think there are any good coaches. I'm not sure if it sounded like that, but I think there's it's a good concept is 80-20. Like if you know 20% of, or if you know some stuff about being a coach, you can usually get a lot of stuff done.
Yeah, that's right. Like if you have 20% of the coaching stuff right, you can basically survive on that.
Yeah,
I think that's what I did in the beginning.
Yeah, and I mean to get the last 20% for a group of beach volleyball players, maybe you have to do 80% of the job as to become a better coach.
Yeah.
So even if you don't know all the details, know everything perfect, you can probably still be a pretty good coach.
That's a really interesting point, because literally still to this day, maybe half of the good feedback I get when I coach is on that 20% that I did differently from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which I still have never seen any other coach ever do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting. So yeah, I think I've survived a lot on that, and obviously I'm trying to build all the other parts of the coaching too, to become more whole.
I mean, there's definite value in doing the stuff that other people don't think about.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I feel like that's a pretty good roundup. I feel like this podcast has been a lot about about a lot of things that most people don't think of. Maybe
let's do it again.
Restart the whole thing.
Yeah. No, but soon.
Yeah, I'm super down. Yeah. I still have this long list of questions here.
Really?
We could do this for hours more. What did you say?
Let's call it an episode.
Yeah, let's call this an episode. Thanks so much for coming here.
Thanks, Alex.
This was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And
next time you're in Gothenburg.
Yeah, exactly.
Swedish beach tour in a couple of months.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Cool. Thank you for listening into these podcast episodes. I hope, as always, that they have been insightful. So there's a few small, quick things. First of all, for everyone that understands Swedish, that might be some Swedish, some Norwegian, maybe some Danish, maybe some Finnish listeners. I would, of course, want to recommend Johan's Swedish Beach Volleyball podcast as well. If you're craving for materials, craving for more content to learn beach volleyball from while taking walks or whatever you might be doing, there's those episodes are out there. He hasn't been active with the podcast for a while, but there's episodes waiting there, and who knows, maybe one day he will take them up again. Other than that, if anyone wants to contact Johan for whatever reason, maybe you think his ideas were interesting, who knows what, he said that people can contact him via Facebook. He's actually in the Facebook group that I have for the Learn Beach Volleyball Fast project, so you can find him even there. So yeah, regarding the Facebook group, as I said in the end of the podcast episode to Johan, I asked him for feedback and ideas of what I had done well, what I hadn't done so well. In reality, this actual conversation that we had was the first conversation that I ever recorded for the podcast. So it was a little bit nervous for me, and I was trying things out. I had this idea that I really like free-flowing conversations that just get to go wherever they go. And well, that's for sure what happened, and it ended up being very, very, very long and taking up 3 episodes. But what I wanted to ask you guys, if you don't mind, is did you like it? Was it too free-flowy? Was it too long? Was it just over the board that I just made 3 episodes? Or was it sort of nice that, there was no limits? It was just volley nerd out as much as you want and with no time pressure. Sometimes the best things comes out of that when you don't have the time pressure. Because I just want to create a good podcast for you guys. And I'm open for continuing having these crazy free-flowing conversations. I'm also open to having more structured. Some of the episodes I have recorded after this podcast are more structured, and they're gonna be released soon. But yeah, any ideas and thoughts, I'm happy to have them and to learn from them. So yeah, if you want to send something to me, you can. There's many ways you can do it. You can join the Facebook group and post it there. I think the Facebook group is called the Learn Beach Volleyball Fast Community. And well, you can find it in the YouTube descriptions, podcast descriptions, etc. Or you can drop some comments on YouTube, or you can send me an email. My email is you can find it on learnbeachvolleyballfast.com. So yeah, there's many ways to send me feedback. Thanks for listening. I haven't quite yet decided what the next episode is going to be about. I have a few recorded, but I'll have to think a little bit about that. Anyway, I hope I hear and see you soon. Thanks. Bye.